Denise opened her retirement statement on a quiet Tuesday morning at her kitchen table. She was 59 years old, with 31 years of steady paychecks behind her. The number printed at the very bottom of the page said $41,000. She read it twice, because 31 years of honest work should not fit in one small number. Denise was not reckless with money. She earned $68,000 a year and never gambled a paycheck. Yet at 59, she had less saved than a brand new pickup truck costs today. Here is the part that should genuinely scare you. Denise is not the exception here. She is the average. The typical American household has only about $87,000 saved. Look only at the people near retirement, and half of them have almost nothing at all. Nearly half of American households have $0 in a retirement account. Zero. And most of those people did nothing dramatically wrong with their money over the years. They simply did one small thing, over and over again, for 30 straight years. Today we find that one thing and the single rule that quietly would have fixed it. Because retiring broke was never really about your income. It is far quieter than that. Let us talk about how big this problem actually is, using only the real numbers. 79% of working Americans now believe the country is facing a real retirement crisis. That is 4 out of every 5 people, and the cold math says they are right. The gap between what Americans have saved and what they will need is roughly $4 trillion. $4 trillion. That is not a spreadsheet error, it is millions of people who run out. More than 15% of Americans over 60 have absolutely nothing saved at all. They will work deep into their 70s because they have to, not because they want to. Others will lean entirely on Social Security to survive their final 20 or 30 years. And Social Security pays the average retiree only about $2,000 every single month. $24,000 a year. Try building the last 30 years of your life on that. Now, most videos stop right here, at the scary part, and leave you feeling completely doomed. That is the easy part. The useful part is why it happens to people earning plenty. Because Denise was not poor, and Tanya, who you will meet in a minute, was not either. The trap was never your salary. Most people think retiring broke is purely an income problem. It almost never is, so let us keep this fair and see what the data actually shows. To see the real trap clearly, we need 2 people who look almost identical on paper. Meet Priya, same city, same job title as Denise, and the same steady 30-year career. Both women earned about $68,000 a year for over 3 straight decades. Neither one won a lottery, neither inherited a dime. On paper, they are the same person. But they retire into 2 completely different worlds, and here is the only real difference. Priya started saving at 25. Denise started at 35. That is it. Just 10 years. One single decade separates these 2 women. Watch closely what that one decade quietly does. Priya put away $200 a month, starting the very year she turned 25. $200, roughly the price of eating out a few extra times each month. She earned about 7% a year in a plain, boring, low-cost index fund. No stock picking, no genius timing, nothing fancy or complicated about it whatsoever. By 65, Priya has around $525,000 in her account. Now here is the detail that matters most about that entire $500,000. Priya contributed only about $96,000 of her own money over those years. The other $429,000, she never earned that at a job at all. It grew. That is compound interest doing the heavy lifting quietly while she slept. Now Denise, same $200 a month, same 7%, same quiet everyday discipline. She simply started 10 years later, at the ordinary age of 35 instead of 25. By 65, Denise has only around $245,000 saved. That is less than half of Priya's total, on the exact same monthly savings amount. Same salary, same investments, half the money. The only real variable between them was time. Let that fact land for a second, because it quietly rewrites the whole story. 10 years of delay did not cost Denise 10 years of savings, as you might expect. It cost her nearly $300,000 by the time she finally reached retirement. Let me put real dollars on just a single year of that early delay. From 25 to 26 is 1 year, only about $2,400 in contributions. But at retirement, that one single year of delay is worth over $30,000. 1 year, $30,000. That is the brutal exchange rate between time and money. The younger the dollar, the harder and the longer it quietly works on your behalf. $1 invested at 25 works for 40 years. At 55, only for 10. Same dollar, wildly different job. That single difference is the entire retirement game. Now meet Tanya, who actually earned more than both women, $80,000 a year. She always meant to start. Every January, she promised herself that this was the year. But there was always some reason. A car, a wedding, a vacation she truly deserved. Tanya was not lazy at all. She was human, wired for what economists call present bias. We grab the reward we can feel today and quietly ignore the one we cannot. Tanya finally started at 45, on the highest salary of all three of these women. And by 65, she still retired with noticeably less money than Priya did. The highest earner of the three retires with the very least. Please read that again. It breaks the story most people quietly tell themselves, that the answer is just earn more. Priya did not earn more. She started earlier, and earlier beat more every single time. This is the part almost nobody tells you about building a real retirement. It was never a race to the highest salary you could possibly reach in your career. It was a quiet race against the calendar, and the calendar truly never stops running. Most people spend their strongest, youngest dollars, then start saving with their weakest ones. That single habit, repeated for decades, is honestly the whole trap in one sentence. Let us start with the quiet engine behind absolutely all of this: compound interest itself. Most people just nod at the phrase and move on. Please do not. This is everything. Compound interest means your money earns money, and then that new money earns money too. It is a snowball, small at the top of the hill and enormous at the bottom. Here is the single number that should honestly stop you cold for a moment. Priya contributed $96,000 and retired with $525,000. So over 80% of her retirement was money she never once worked a job for. It appeared. It grew straight out of time itself, quietly, year after year after year. Now here is the cruel little twist hiding inside every snowball exactly like this one. The snowball only gets truly, dramatically huge at the very, very end of the run. In Priya's first 10 years, her balance honestly looks unimpressive, boring even. Most of the explosive growth happens in the final decade right before she retires. That is exactly why quitting feels safe when you are young. The early years look pointless. But they actually matter the most. They are the very top of the hill. Skip them, and the snowball simply never gets the room it needs to grow big. This is precisely why a single dollar quietly ages backwards over your whole lifetime. The dollar you invest at 25 beats the same dollar invested at 45, easily. Time is the real multiplier, and you can never, ever buy that time back later. Run the numbers on yourself at any age. The lesson honestly never changes at all. The best day to start was a decade ago. The second best day is today. Here is something that sounds helpful, but quietly keeps millions of ordinary people poor. You start a new job, and most companies now enroll you automatically into a 401k. That part is genuinely good news, but they set your savings rate to a default number. 3 out of 4 plans default you to just 3% of your total pay. 3% sounds responsible. It feels like doing the right thing. It is simply not enough. On a $60,000 salary, 3% is only $1,800 saved per year. Researchers point closer to 15%, counting your employer match, to actually retire comfortably. So millions of people genuinely think they are saving for retirement. They checked the box. They see the deduction on the paycheck, and they are saving a fifth of what they need. Here's the part that really stings about that innocent little default number. It does not move on its own. People stay stuck right there for their entire careers. They assume someone smart and careful chose that number for them. Nobody actually did. It is a default, not advice. And defaults are built for the company, not for you. But there is a genuinely hopeful flip side to this, and it is surprisingly powerful. One study found workers using automatic increases nearly quadrupled their own savings rate, from 3.5% all the way to almost 14% in under 4 years. And they barely felt it, 1% more once a year on a day they got a raise. That is the entire gap between checking a box and truly funding a real retirement. Most people will never once touch that default. Please do not be most people. Here is free money that millions of people quietly leave sitting on the table every year. Most employers match part of your 401k contributions. That is free money instantly. A very common match is 50 cents per dollar up to 6% of your pay. On a $60,000 salary, that match can easily be $1,800 a year. That is an instant 50% return before the market does anything at all for you. Nothing else in all of finance reliably pays you 50% on the very first day. Yet many workers contribute far too little to ever capture the full employer match. They leave real free money behind on every single paycheck, quietly, for years and years. Over a full career, one unclaimed match can easily cost you well into six figures. Think about that. Politely turning down a raise your employer is practically begging to give. The rule is simple. Always contribute at least enough to grab the entire match. Skipping the match is honestly the only guaranteed loss in this entire video today. Now, the sneakiest wealth killer of them all, and it is not a market crash. It is a raise. Every time your income rises, your lifestyle quietly rises right along with it. Bigger apartment, newer car, nicer everything. Economists politely call this lifestyle creep. You just call it a normal Tuesday. Here is why it is so quietly dangerous. When Tanya jumped from 60 to 80,000, she felt genuinely richer for about a month. Then the new spending simply became her new normal, and her savings rate never budged. She earned $20,000 more a year and saved almost none of that raise. Over a full career, that is the difference between a comfortable retirement and a quiet crisis. Think of it in dollars. A single $10,000 raise, invested every year for 30 years. Invested faithfully each year, that one raise alone can be worth over $1 million. Most people spend it instead on a slightly nicer version of the life they already had. Their spending climbs, their savings stays flat, and later they wonder where the money went. It did not vanish anywhere mysterious. They wore it, drove it, and streamed it away. The fix is not living like a monk on plain rice and tap water forever. It is quietly saving a piece of every raise before you ever get used to it. Bank the raise, not just the guilt. Always pay your future self first, automatically. Let us talk honestly about the safety net that people are secretly, quietly counting on. Ask anyone with no savings what their real plan is, and most will say two words: Social Security. And here's the genuine problem hiding deep inside that particular plan. It was designed to replace only about 40% of your working income, not all of it. 40%, not 100. And the average monthly benefit is only about $2,000. $24,000 a year. If you earn $60,000, that drop is a real cliff. Nearly 90% of Americans over 65 lean on that check quite heavily. And many of them lean on it for absolutely everything. That was never once the design. It was meant to be a floor, never the entire house that you actually live in. Building a retirement on Social Security alone is like a home with only a foundation poured. Technically, it exists, sure, but you honestly cannot live your life inside of it. Waiting on Social Security to quietly save you is not really a plan, it is a hope. And hope, unfortunately, compounds far, far slower than actual invested money ever will. The people who retire comfortably treat that check as a bonus, never the main event. This next one is completely invisible, which is exactly why it is so quietly expensive. Fees. Say two people save the same amount and earn the exact same market return. One of them pays a 1% annual fee, the other one pays 2%. 1%. It honestly sounds like a totally harmless little rounding error, doesn't it? Over 30 years, that single extra percent can quietly eat a full quarter of your balance. On a $500,000 retirement, that is over $100,000, simply gone. Not lost to a market crash, lost to fees, and you never even see it leave. No withdrawal, no alert, no bad day. It is just skimmed silently off the very top. Here is what most people quietly get completely wrong about their own investing money. They obsess over the price of coffee and totally ignore the price of their investments. One costs a few dollars a day, the other can cost you six figures over a lifetime. The fix here is almost insultingly simple, and it is available to absolutely everyone. Low-cost index funds often charge a tiny fraction of what active managed funds do. Same market, a fraction of the fee. You simply get to keep the whole difference. Run the numbers on your own accounts and find out what you are really paying today. Here is a mistake that can erase decades of good decisions in one single afternoon. Selling in a crash. Markets fall sometimes. That is simply and completely what they do. Every few years, the market drops sharply, and it genuinely feels like the actual end. Your balance turns an ugly red, your gut screams sell, and so a lot of people sell. They lock in the loss, sit safely in cash, and quietly wait to finally feel safe again. Then they miss the recovery, which is exactly where most of the real gains actually live. Here is the brutal little math that nobody who is panicking ever wants to hear. Miss just the 10 best market days over a few decades, and you can have your return. And the very best days almost always arrive right after the absolute worst ones. Panic, and you do not just dodge the storm, you also miss the sunshine right behind it. This is exactly why the calm, boring investor quietly beats the smart, nervous one. It was never really about being brilliant. It was simply about not flinching at the bottom. The ones who retired genuinely rich did something deeply, almost painfully unglamorous. They kept calmly buying when it was scary, and they never once touched the panic button. Now, a trap that actually feels responsible but slowly, quietly bleeds you dry over time. Hoarding cash. After watching a crash, some people flee hard in the other direction entirely. They pull everything into a savings account where it simply cannot fall. It feels safe. It is really a slow leak, though, and here is exactly why it quietly hurts you. Money just sitting in cash steadily loses real value every single year to inflation. If prices rise 3% a year and your cash earns nothing, your money shrinks. $10,000 under the mattress today will buy noticeably less within a single decade. Over 30 years, cash can quietly lose nearly half of its entire buying power. You did not lose the dollars themselves. You lost what those very dollars could buy. That is the quiet inflation tax that almost nobody ever bothers to warn you about. You do need some cash, 3 to 6 months of expenses, ready to grab fast. But beyond that emergency fund, cash is not safety. It is just slow, comfortable erosion. Safety that quietly loses to inflation is not safety. It is going broke very slowly. Here is the exact story that almost every single person quietly tells themselves about money. I will start later, when I earn more, when the kids are finally grown and gone. Here is precisely why waiting until later almost never actually works out the way we hope. The entire power of compounding lives inside those first, early, unglamorous years of saving. Start at 45 instead of 25, and you do not just lose 20 years of contributions. You lose the 20 full years those early dollars would have quietly grown the most. Remember Priya and Denise. Same money, same return, 10 years apart, and double the result. To honestly catch up, a late starter has to save truly enormous amounts of money. A 25-year-old might need under $200 a month to reach $1 million by 65. Wait until 55, and that same number can balloon past $5,000 every month. Same exact goal, 25 times the monthly pain. That is the true hidden price of later. Later is not cheaper at all. It is quietly the most expensive word in all of personal finance. Most people genuinely believe they will get serious about their money someday, eventually. But someday is not a strategy, and the calendar never ever negotiates with anyone. Here is one more powerful force pulling hard against you the entire time you save. High-interest debt. Your investments try to grow at around 7% a year, steadily. But your credit card debt can grow at 22% a year, or even more. That is not a fair fight at all. It is a tug-of-war that is badly rigged. Picture Tanya saving in her 401k while quietly carrying $8,000 of card debt. Her savings earn maybe 7%. Her debt reliably costs her a full 22. She is quietly moving backward every single month while genuinely feeling quite productive. Every month, that card takes far more than the market could ever hope to give back. Most people treat the minimum payment as if it is actually the real goal to hit. The minimum is carefully engineered to keep you politely paying for many, many years. On $8,000, paying only minimums can mean repaying nearly double the amount. That is a decade your money compounds hard against you, instead of quietly for you. So the order truly matters. Kill the high-interest debt first, before anything else at all. Paying off that card is a guaranteed 22% return. The market cannot promise that. Clear the anchor off first, and then let compounding finally start pulling you forward. Here is the quiet reason all of these traps go completely unnoticed for entire decades. Most people have no written plan and no real target number they are actually aiming at. They save whatever happens to be left at the end of the month, which is usually nothing. Money without a plan simply drifts, and drifting money always drifts straight towards spending. And people badly underestimate one crucial thing: how long a modern retirement now actually lasts. A healthy 65-year-old today can very easily live well into their early 90s. That is potentially 30 full years of expenses with exactly 0 paychecks coming in. Healthcare alone can cost a retired couple several $100,000 over those years. Plan for 30 years, not 10, or the money quietly runs out far too early. A real plan turns a vague someday into a specific number and a specific date. And a number you can actually see is a number that you can actually hit. Now, here is the single fact that quietly breaks almost everyone's brain about money. We have talked about starting early. Let me show you just how absurdly powerful early is. Picture two more savers. Call them simply the quitter and the grinder. The quitter saves $200 a month from age 25 to 35. 10 years, and then she stops completely and never invests another single dollar again. The grinder does the exact opposite thing with her own retirement money. She saves absolutely nothing in her 20s, not one single invested dollar. Then at 35, she starts $200 a month and grinds it out for 30 straight years. All the way to 65, faithfully, never once missing a single monthly contribution. Now, honestly, guess which of these two women has more money at retirement? Common sense screams the grinder. After all, she saved for 30 long, disciplined years. The quitter only saved for 10. The grinder put in fully triple the money. But common sense is dead wrong here. The quitter quietly wins this one. The woman who saved for 10 years and quit beats the 30-year grinder outright. Same return, same $200 a month, and the quitter still comes out clearly ahead. How? The quitter's early money had a full 10-year head start on compounding. Those early dollars compounded for 40 years instead of only 30. That gap is everything. And that head start quietly beat 20 extra years of steady contributions. Time simply won. Let me say it as plainly and clearly as I possibly can right now. When you start matters far more than how long you actually save. That is the entire secret of retirement, honestly compressed down into one single line. The grinder was not lazy, and she was not cheap. She simply started 10 years late. And the calendar quietly charged her full price for every single year that she waited. This one idea should genuinely change how you think about your money forever, starting today. You are not behind because you do not happen to earn quite enough money. You are behind because your dollars simply have not been given enough time yet. And time is the one single asset that you already fully own right now, today. Every year you wait, you are quietly firing your very most valuable employees. Your youngest dollars, they work the longest hours and complain the very least. So the real question was never how much money can I possibly manage to save. The real question is simply this: how soon can I actually start doing it? In retirement math, early quietly beats big almost every single time, without fail. And here is the real mercy hidden deep inside all of this hard, brutal math. If starting late is the costliest mistake, then starting now is the cheapest possible fix. Not next year, not after the next raise, not someday, but right now, today. Start today with even a little, and soon enough others will be chasing after you. You truly cannot change when you should have started saving money years ago. You can only shrink the delay, starting from this exact moment forward. So shrink it. So let us finally bring every single piece of all this home together now. The compounding, the fees, the raises, the panic. Honestly, it sounds like an awful lot. It really is not, though, because one single rule quietly fixes almost all of it. Here it is, the entire thing captured cleanly in one simple, memorable sentence. Pay yourself first, automatically, and then raise it by 1% every single year. Pay yourself first means the money leaves for investing before you can ever spend it. Automatically means you never once have to find the willpower for it ever again. The decision gets made exactly one time, and then it quietly runs itself for decades. Raise it 1% a year, and you slowly climb from 3% toward 15%. That one rule beats present bias because you simply cannot spend what you never touch. It beats lifestyle creep because your saving quietly rises right along with your income. It beats the 3% trap because it patiently climbs entirely on its own. One decision, made just once, quietly working hard for you for the next 40 years. That is exactly the one thing that poor Denise never once set up for herself. And it is precisely what Priya did at 25, without ever thinking it was brilliant. If this finally made the whole math click for you, please do just one small thing. Subscribe to Maya Wealth right now and go ahead and hit that notification bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every single day. Then go and set up the one rule: today, right now, and not someday. Because the calendar is already quietly running, with or without your explicit permission. Here is the whole hard truth in one final line that is genuinely worth remembering. You don't retire broke from earning too little. You retire broke from waiting too long.